The catalyst. The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Concord met once every generation, when peace teetered, when blood had already been spilled, or when someone was foolish enough to light a match in a nebula. Today, the chamber was full. In the heart of the obsidian chamber, beneath a dome of starlight, thousands of species stood in silence. Some floated, some shimmered, some stood upright in humanoid form. All watched the circular platform at the center, where the representative of the Thar'Zul Dominion, a towering, violet-skinned predator adorned in ceremonial bone armor, approached the core pedestal. Ambassador Varka's voice echoed like distant thunder, translated into thousands of tongues. "Let it be known," he began, "that the Thar'Zul Dominion, rightful inheritor of the serene cluster and conqueror of 10 suns, hereby declares total war on the Terran system and its inhabitants, known collectively as humans." A hushed murmur rippled through the ranks of delegates. Some blinked multiple eyes in surprise. Others chirped nervously, unsure if they heard correctly. "Humans? Is that even necessary?" whispered a crystalline Ktharn diplomat to his neighbor. "They barely entered FTL range a century ago." Varkas raised a clawed hand to silence the whispers. "This species has refused tribute, defied protocol, and destroyed a Thar'Zul exploratory vessel in what they call the Kuiper Belt. They are primitive and insolent. They will be punished." The lights dimmed, and a holographic projection ignited above the central dais. Footage from the destroyed colony on Mars, burning structures, bodies strewn across red dust, and the black flags of Thar'Zul planted into Terran soil. A low growl escaped Varka's throat. "Let this be a lesson to those who ignore the order of dominance. The Terrans will be extinguished." Suddenly, the hologram shifted. The same Martian colony reappeared, but now under siege by Thar'Zul forces. Then, a counterattack. Automated turrets from beneath the surface rose and shredded enemy drop ships. Human combat drones deployed in coordinated, hive-like patterns, outmaneuvering and ambushing their attackers. The final frame froze, a battered Thar'Zul captain crawling toward a comms unit, only to be dragged away by a figure in a sleek, matte black exosuit with a glowing red visor. The chamber fell silent. From a raised platform near the back, a lone human stepped forward. He wasn't tall. He wore no ceremonial robes, just a black uniform with silver trim, functional, armored. He looked like someone who didn't speak unless he meant to finish the conversation. "Permission to speak," said the man, his voice transmitted without translation. He didn't need it. Everyone understood the tone. The speaker of the assembly, a gelatinous being with a dozen eyes and 1,000 years of procedural memory, hesitated before nodding. The human stepped to the center, directly across from Varkas, and stared him down. "My name is Commander Elias Ward," he said calmly, "Supreme Representative of Earth's Defense Accord. You came to our colony without warning. You destroyed it. You declared war expecting us to beg or fold." He looked around the chamber slowly, letting the silence thicken. "Let me be absolutely clear for everyone here who voted in favor of this absurdity." He took a breath. "Congratulations. You just declared war on the deadliest species alive." The room erupted, not in cheers, but in uneasy whispers, clicks, and squeals. Varkas laughed, teeth bared. "You speak boldly for a species barely crawling out of its gravity well." Ward didn't smile. He pressed a button on his wrist. Behind him, the projection changed once again. A Thar'Zul cruiser split in half. Another consumed in flames in Europa's orbit. A data feed showed casualty reports from a dozen skirmishes in the outer system, all ending in decisive Terran victories. "We didn't ask for this war," Ward said, "but we've prepared for it longer than you can imagine. Every century of peace bought with the blood of our ancestors. Every war a rehearsal. We are not the apex of diplomacy, nor the kings of commerce. We are the apex of survival, of war, and we do not lose." He turned away. "Send your fleets. Make your threats. But know this, we don't fight for glory. We fight to end threats." As Ward walked from the dais, the chamber buzzed with unease. For the first time in centuries, a declaration of war had not gone unchallenged. but answered with fire. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but the war had already begun, and humanity was ready. The first mistake. The first Thar'Zul fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system 13 days after the declaration. 12 dreadnoughts, 30 escort ships, and a carrier-class high vessel the size of a small moon. They expected fear. What they found was silence. No challenge, no transmission, just an empty black void as they crossed into human territory, assuming the absence of resistance meant surrender. Their arrogance wasn't unique. Most of the galaxy viewed humans as a curious, combustible anomaly. Dangerous when provoked, yes, but fractured, undisciplined, and too young to matter on a grand stage. That assumption was their first mistake. On the bridge of the Thar'Zul, Fleet Commander Irask studied the holomap as his ships crept past Neptune's orbit. No defenses, no transmissions. Proceed as planned. His second-in-command, a lean creature with bioluminescent veins, tilted his head. We're detecting gravitational anomalies near the asteroid belt. Could be natural debris. Irask snorted. They call this region the graveyard. Fitting. They pushed forward. What the Thar'Zul didn't know was that humanity had prepared for this moment, not over months or years, but over generations. The moment first contact turned violent, Earth activated Protocol Echelon, a full-spectrum countermeasure strategy built around one belief. Humans don't win fair fights. They win the ones no one survives. Without warning, the vacuum of space erupted. Dozens of heat signatures flared to life as stealth drones powered by AI combat heuristics dropped their camouflage and fired in coordinated pulses. The drones, no larger than cargo containers, swarmed like insects, each programmed with a single directive: disable the fleet, exploit weakness, and adapt without hesitation. The Thar'Zul response was immediate but flawed. Their fleet, designed for frontline assaults, lacked the flexibility to counter the chaos. Missile bays overloaded. Shields flared against projectiles moving too fast and too close. By the time the dreadnought Varkala exploded into two fiery halves, the Thar'Zul realized they weren't in a war zone. They were in a trap. From a command center buried beneath the lunar surface, Commander Elias Ward watched the live feed with no expression. "How many losses?" he asked. "None," replied Tactical Officer Wren. "Not a single human casualty. Drones performed exactly as modeled." Ward leaned back. "We're not here to win battles. We're here to send a message." He gestured to the display, now showing the chaos on the enemy carrier vessel as internal systems were overridden, its own reactor on the verge of overload. Let them crawl back and tell the others. Let them remember. 3 days later, a single Thar'Zul scout ship limped back to the edge of the Serene cluster, venting plasma and dragging wreckage like a scar. Inside, Captain Threx clutched a translator beacon in one mangled hand, his eyes wide and unblinking. "Do not send more ships. Do not engage the Terrans. They are not what we thought. They are not civilized." He coughed blood, then whispered the last phrase. "They enjoy it." News spread quickly. Among the Concord's outer systems, debate turned to panic. The smaller nations, those that had voted for war out of fear of the Thar'Zul, now questioned their alliance. Messages flooded the assembly, requesting retractions, clarifications, and armistices. But the humans remained silent. They didn't respond to threats. They didn't respond to pleas. They simply acted. Ward's next move was subtle. Earth deployed soft probes into neighboring systems. Silent scouts equipped with quantum masking. These devices didn't scan. They listened. The humans weren't just preparing for more attacks. They were mapping the galaxy, not with wonder, but with the cold, surgical intent of a species that had learned to survive in the harshest environment imaginable, itself. Back in the Grand Assembly, silence ruled. The speaker's 1,000 eyes scanned the chamber. "Are there any further declarations?" No one spoke. From the shadows, a new projection emerged unauthorized. It showed Earth from orbit, gleaming cities powered by fusion, massive orbital rings, shipyards constructing vessels with irregular, unpredictable shapes, hard to scan, harder to hit. Then, archives from Earth's history. Footage of trench warfare, nuclear tests, bioweapon casualties, cyber sieges. Hundreds of years of blood and fire condensed into a warning reel. A line of text appeared at the bottom of the projection. You taught us how to speak. You taught us how to fly. But we taught ourselves how to kill. In the silence that followed, the galaxy realized something it should have remembered from the moment it first encountered humanity. You can enslave a builder. You can manipulate a thinker. You can bargain with a diplomat. But you cannot reason with a predator. And humanity had just remembered its nature. What makes us human? In the dim heart of the Earth Defense Accord's Central Command, beneath layers of reinforced alloys and magnetic shielding, a single question was being asked again and again by allies, by frightened neutral species, and even within Earth's own leadership. Why are we like this? Commander Elias Ward stood before a council of humanity's greatest minds, scientists, generals, historians, and ethicists. The war, sparked barely 2 weeks ago, had already upended galactic balance. Now, Earth held the upper hand, and no one knew what to do next. It's not about victory, said Dr. Alara Mendez, chief strategist of long-range diplomacy. It's about legacy. The galaxy expected retaliation, not annihilation. Ward didn't blink. We haven't annihilated anyone. Yet, a silence settled over the room. Then General Harlan, scarred from Earth's last civil war, spoke. We've spent centuries pretending we're not dangerous. But the truth? We always were. We just forgot. No, Ward said quietly. We evolved, but we remembered when we had to. He tapped the holodeble, and an ancient recording played, black and white footage of World War I trenches. Men in mud, faces gaunt, eyes hollow. Then Vietnam, Fallujah, Kiev, Mars colony riots, New Tokyo's evacuation during the solar flare crisis. Every moment in history where humanity didn't break, but became harder. Ward let it run. Our enemies don't understand us, he continued, because we don't fit into their frameworks. We don't conquer for glory. We don't expand because of belief systems. We do it because we refuse extinction. Dr. Mendez folded her arms. Then what makes us different from them? Ward glanced around the room, and his tone softened. Empathy. Someone scoffed. No, really, Ward said. We're dangerous because we understand pain, ours and theirs. We create weapons meant to terrify, but we also send relief ships after a tsunami. We mourn our enemies. That's what makes us human. He looked up at the rotating image of Earth above them. We could glass every world that stands in our way, but we don't, because what we do next defines us more than what we've already done. Meanwhile, in orbit above Saturn, humanity's most advanced fleet, Seventh Horizon, conducted joint exercises. Captain Anika Shah stood on the bridge of the Eidolon, staring at the tactical display. Her orders were clear. Hold the line, display strength, and offer no provocation. But she couldn't shake the unease growing in her chest. They were too good at this. The crew responded like extensions of a central nervous system. Calm, efficient, deadly. Drones recalibrated without commands. Pilots maneuvered around simulated debris fields with casual precision. The AI learned faster than even she was comfortable with. Status? She asked. Fleet cohesion at 99.6%, came the reply. Simulated enemy fleet neutralized in 4 minutes, 32 seconds. Shah frowned. Make them stronger. Stronger, Captain? Yes. Make the simulation smarter. More unpredictable. Like us. That's what terrified her the most. Humanity had become the enemy it used to train against. Elsewhere, on the ruined moon of Thal'Zul, a Thar'Zul survivor, strategist Velk, crawled through ash and debris. His 4 limbs trembled, not from pain, but from realization. The humans hadn't just crushed their assault. They had understood it, predicted their routes, anticipated their formations, laid traps based on emotional responses. It wasn't war. It was psychological vivisection. Velk activated his emergency beacon and broadcast a single, encrypted message to Thar'Zul High Command. They don't just fight. They learn. Every single time. Back on Earth, children still played. Cities buzzed with life. The war felt distant. Just flickers of red and blue on news feeds. But beneath the surface, something had shifted. Humans didn't want this war. But now that it had begun, they wouldn't lose it. In a hospital in Nairobi, a former Marine turned teacher read stories of Earth's past to orphans displaced by the colony evacuations. She ended with an old quote from Carl Sagan. In the vastness of space, we are a way for the universe to know itself. One child raised her hand. Are we the good guys? The teacher paused, then smiled sadly. We're the ones still writing the story. In the silence between stars, species once confident in their superiority began to hesitate. Because now they knew. Humanity was not a threat because of its weapons. Humanity was a threat because it remembered every scar and refused to let history repeat without being the one holding the pen. The reckoning. It began with silence. No grand invasions. No desperate counterattacks. Just an eerie pause, as if the galaxy itself were holding its breath. Then, without warning, 37 independent colonies loyal to the Thar'Zul Dominion lost contact within the same hour. No debris. No distress signals. Just a digital void. Commander Elias Ward sat in orbit over Ceres aboard the Helios, watching the stars. His hands were still, his voice steady, but his eyes, the eyes of a man who had seen too much, betrayed the storm behind them. We're not targeting civilians, said General Harlan over a secured channel. We didn't, Ward replied. We targeted infrastructure, data hubs, military satellites, fuel stations. They're scared now because for the first time, they're vulnerable. Then what's next? Ward turned from the stars. We give them a choice. Aboard the central spire of the Thar'Zul homeworld, Sovereign High Lord Corvith seethed beneath his gilded helm. The loss of colonies was not just a military defeat. It was a humiliation. And worse, it had shattered the illusion of control. His advisors, once full of bravado, now stood silent. They used no fleets, no armies, only intelligence, growled Corvith. They crippled us with knowledge. How? The room stayed silent, until one voice spoke, low and cold. Strategist Velk, barely recovered from his injuries on Thalcor, leaned forward. Because they've fought themselves. For millennia. They know every tactic, every weakness, every lie we've ever told to dominate lesser species. They've told worse ones to themselves. And survived. Corvith narrowed his eyes. Then what would you have us do? Velk hesitated, then answered. Submit. The room exploded in outrage. Shouts echoed. Threats were made, but the sovereign did not move. He was watching the stars now, too, and he wasn't so sure they were his anymore. On Earth, Ward prepared his final move. A single ship, not armed, not cloaked, just fast. It would pierce Thar'Zul airspace, descend into their atmosphere, and deliver a message, an offer. Not surrender, not dominance. A way out, because humanity didn't want to rule. It just wanted the galaxy to think very carefully before ever trying to rule them again. The courier ship launched without ceremony. As it slipped past Thar'Zul scanners, a pre-recorded transmission played across every major galactic frequency, broadcast in every major language. This is Commander Elias Ward of the Terran Accord. We have demonstrated our resolve. You have witnessed our capability. You now face a decision. Stand down and live, or escalate and burn. We are not here to be feared, but we will not be forgotten, because now you know the truth. You declared war on the deadliest species alive, and we survived ourselves to prove it. The ship reached the Thar'Zul capital. They could have shot it down. Should have. They didn't. The vessel landed in silence, and the message was played again. In person. No guards. No weapons. Just a human diplomat who looked into the eyes of those who thought themselves gods and saw fear staring back. The war didn't end with a treaty. It ended with respect born from terror, peace bought with bloodless aggression, and silence that echoed louder than explosions. Weeks later, the Galactic Concord issued a revised code of engagement. Clause 1 was rewritten. No species shall declare war without understanding the full measure of its targets will to endure. Unofficially, it was known as the Terran Clause. No one dare violate it. The Thar'Zul? They retreated inward, their empire fractured, not by force, but by doubt. The galaxy watched them shrink, and for once, no one came to help them rebuild. Humanity, meanwhile, did not expand. It fortified defense grids, quantum relay satellites, ambassadors trained in military history and emotional empathy. Not to conquer, but to ensure no one forgot the lesson they had taught the stars. Humanity was a mirror. You saw in them the worst version of yourself. And if you try to break that mirror, you'd bleed. Elias Ward returned to Earth without fanfare. He walked among civilians anonymously, just another face in a crowd that didn't quite understand the scale of what he had prevented. And that was how he wanted it. Because real peace wasn't built on fear. It was built on the understanding that if war ever came again, humanity wouldn't hesitate to end it. Not for vengeance, not for pride, but because some species are too dangerous to enslave, and far too human to ever lose again.